Alright guys, so it's time to pay up and that's what Russia wants. I think we can all recall the infamous Nord Stream bombings. Officially, no one knows who did it. The EU points to Russia and Russia is pointing to the US is pointing to Ukraine. But make no mistake, this was a crazy act that destroyed the energy supply to Germany. And this was the most consequential sabotage in modern times. It cut Europe away from cheap Russian gas. It was a big reason why Germany is forced to deindustrialize today. When Nord Stream was blown up, it cut away two of the biggest gas pipelines to Europe. It was horrendous. Nord Stream 1 was taken out. Nord Stream 2 was never opened as well because it sustained damage. Over 100 billion cubic meters per annum of gas was cut off. It removed all direct Russian supply to Germany. 60% of Europe's supply was destroyed on that day itself. If Europe wanted more Russian gas, they had to go through Turkey, which made it more expensive. When Nord Stream 1 was taken out in June 2022, prices were around 120 euros per megawatt hour. 2 months later in August, prices went up almost threefold. It reached a crazy peak of 340 euros. The Nord Stream explosion triggered the start of a never-ending energy crisis in Europe, especially Germany. And we can all see the consequences today. Manufacturers are leaving Berlin, and GDP went negative for the entire 2023. It's one rolling disaster after another, but it gets even more mysterious. The two countries actively investigating Nord Stream, they have given up. Sweden has shut down their Nord Stream inquiry. They have handed it over to Germany, saying that it's beyond their jurisdiction. However, it gets even more baffling in the investigations by Denmark. It's as if everyone knows who really did it, but is just too afraid to say who. Denmark found deliberate sabotage responsible for the blast at both pipelines, but once again, there are not enough grounds for a case. So deliberate sabotage is the cause, but no other conclusions. If it was Russia, I can assure that it will be all over the papers today. So there's a lot of stuff they aren't really telling us. We can see the gas pipelines damage were located quite far from the Russian end. It's much closer to Germany and happened next to Sweden and Denmark, hence the investigations. Now I'm sure everyone here has their own theories, but at least in this video, I want to stick to the financial consequences. The Nord Stream pipelines didn't just magically appear. It was built from the ground. It was a joint venture between Russian and European companies. This is a commercial project, and when it goes up in flames, there are financial damages as well, and Russia is demanding a payout over the blast. If we look at the ownership of Nord Stream, it's clear who's the most pissed off. The biggest shareholder is Gazprom, the Russian state-owned company. They hold around 51% of the Nord Stream project. The other main shareholders are German energy companies. NG, which holds 9%, that's a French company. Even France is involved in this mess. But the lawsuit we are talking about has to be approved by Gazprom, the majority shareholder. And they are going after the insurers of the pipelines. They are after 400 million euros in coverage over the pipeline explosions. Now that might seem like a ton of money, but it's actually chump change. Court documents show that the financial damage far exceeds 400 million euros. It's well above 1.2 billion at the very least. That's the amount needed to remove the water, repair the pipelines, and replace the gas that leaked into the Baltic Sea. It's quite a big sum of money, and Russia wants the insurers to pay up. And they are going after Lloyds of London and Ark Insurance, which is a UK company as well. Almost every big infrastructure project is insured. Whether it's a commercial building, a bridge, or pipeline, there are insurance companies that give coverage. They collect a premium to guarantee a sum of money if the project gets damaged or just collapses. It's just like an accident coverage policy. Lloyds of London is a primary insurer, which means they take the first losses from any event. In return, they probably charge the highest premium. The other insurer provides excess coverage. These policies pay out after the primary insurers have paid theirs. And what's interesting is the refusal of these companies to pay, hence the lawsuit we see today. Nord Stream claims that the blast should trigger both payouts because of the extent of the damages. On the surface, this looks like a normal contract dispute. Is there a force majeure clause that excludes sabotage? Or must the saboteur be identified in an investigation for a financial claim? We have no idea yet, but the political implications are there. It is essentially Russia demanding compensation from the West over Nord Stream, and chances are it might not be the last financial battle Russia has to fight. Nord Stream is nothing compared to the big disaster coming, and that is the confiscation of the frozen Russian assets, and we are moving very close to the unthinkable. Europe is about to tap Russia's frozen reserves. The $300 billion lockaway is one step away from being utilized, and Germany just confirmed it. In a shocking statement, Olaf Scholz told the world that it's coming, that Europe will tap the frozen assets for Ukraine. And this is a sudden shift from Berlin that almost guaranteed the EU is fully on board the idea. They're about to use the assets against Russia on the field. According to Olaf Scholz, we will use the windfall profits from the Russian assets frozen in Europe to financially support the purchase of weapons for Ukraine. And this is groundbreaking because it's the first time Germany has given vocal support to this idea. The money isn't going to rebuild Ukraine. He specifically mentioned using it to buy weapons to fight the Russians, so its use is going to be military. Now, the Germans have always been a careful lot. When Macron hinted at boots on the ground, the Germans shot them down. So, this is a very big deal. You can sense a big change in Europe today. They are caught between a rock and a hard place. There are multiple storms about to slam into the Eurozone, and the biggest one is called Donald Trump. During a meeting with Trump, Viktor Orban confirmed Europe's biggest nightmare. If Trump wins, he won't give any money to Ukraine. Funding is about to dry up, and America might be pulling away support as soon as January next year. And Orban lays this out pretty clearly. He will not give a penny in the Russia-Ukraine war. And if the Americans don't give money, the Europeans alone are unable to finance this war. And then the war is over. The statement from Olaf Scholz pretty much confirms this, that Europe can't replace American aid without destroying their economies further. The only option left is to utilize the frozen assets. But this is a very dangerous slope. The risk to Western assets can't be overstated. Even America knows that this is a crazy idea. US senators like Rand Paul is calling it a feel-good bill that would absolutely boomerang. This would breed contempt against the West. It would prolong the war as well. And I want to share 2 points that he made. It shows how confiscating the assets is a crazy idea. It will hurt the US and most definitely Europe as well. Confiscation will only convince Moscow that there's no negotiated settlement to be had with Ukraine. The result will be a destroyed Ukraine. The moment you confiscate the assets, you lose a big bargaining chip with Russia. The money will be used to prolong the fight, buying weapons to fight Russia. And this will drag the conflict out for many more months or even years, and this will crush the economies of Europe even further. Confiscating Russia's assets will also certainly convince other countries, including China, that the US can no longer be trusted as the guarantor of the global economy. This is something that we talk about for ages, and it's refreshing to hear this straight from a US senator. Rand Paul knows the dangers of confiscation. Even if the US does nothing and Europe does everything, the US financial system will get implicated as well. The dollarization will pick up and trust in Western assets will get drained away. There are no long-term benefits here, only short-term wins. But with Germany's admission, we better brace for impact. It's just a matter of time. But let's shift gears and talk about Argentina because the economy there is about to face an export crisis, and that would be a financial disaster. Let's recap the struggle Argentina is facing. While monthly inflation has slowed down to 13%, the annual CPI is still at a crazy 276%. To achieve this drop, Milei went around cutting a ton of jobs, so people on the streets aren't exactly happy with this. Argentina is still doing a ton of debt rollovers. They exchanged over $50 billion worth of bonds maturing this year for new debt, and they will only come due next year to 2028. In other words, Milei is postponing a bond market collapse. He's hoping to restore Argentina's economy within the next few years. He needs to build up more dollar reserves and stabilize inflation to pay back the debt. But they are now facing a collapse in trade. Their biggest export, soybean meal, is starting to crash and is only going to get worse. The green diesel boom in the US is destroying Argentina's biggest export to the world. America is crushing a ton of soybeans for oil to make renewable diesel. As a result, they are flooding the market with soybean meal, the byproduct of this crushing process. This will create an excess supply of meal and send prices tumbling down. Since January 2023, the price has been dropping month after month. It went from $500 per ton down to only $330. That's a 34% drop in about a year. And this oversupply from the US is causing Argentine exports to drop in value. The same amount of soybean meal is now being sold for fewer dollars. And this is a big problem. It's a big deal. Argentina needs to bring in a ton of dollars to stabilize the economy. Remember, right? Milei wants to dollarize everything. But if Argentina's top export is selling for less today, fewer currency units will come in. Over the past decade, Argentina has been losing ground in the global meal market. They have gone from over 50% of the entire market to under 30% today. That is a tremendous drop. They are facing a ton of competition. Even Brazil, their neighbor, is fighting for market share as well. Not only are export volumes for Argentina coming down, but the prices are dropping as well. It's a double whammy that's only gonna get worse. Soybean processors in the US have 21 outstanding projects to expand capacity, and that would mean an additional 13 million tons of supply flooding into the markets by 2026. This should be frightening for Malay. 13 million tons is over a third of Argentina's total meal production, and when US supply hits the market, prices will come down. So the pain for Argentina isn't going to end soon. Milei's quest to dollarize the economy will be near impossible. Plus, he's facing a big diplomatic disaster back home. His shock therapy decree is being rejected by the government itself. The Senate has defeated his reforms in a stunning 41 to 25 vote. It's just pending a repeal from the lower house, and if this passes, his plan for Argentina collapses. His spending cuts and privatization plans could go up in smoke. So there are many questions going around. Will Argentina's economy recover? And can Milei push through till the end? Now honestly, I have no idea. I hope inflation comes down for them and exports increase, but the situation on the ground isn't looking very good. So here are the takeaways. It's quite clear, right? It's a disaster all over the world. Russia will be fighting hard for the Nord Stream money. I don't even think it's about the payout now, but to get answers and test the Western legal system. It's also clear that the Russian assets will be utilized. Germany's statement is very stunning, whether it's the entire $300 billion or just the interest payments Russia's about to lose their funds. And Argentina is facing crisis after crisis. Trying to repair economy is very hard, but Milei's plan of speed running a recovery is facing total collapse. It's happening both domestically and abroad. But as always, let me know what you think. Will Nord Stream get their insurance payout? And is it all over for the frozen Russian reserves? Let me know in the comments below, guys. Stay safe. Be sure to smash the like button and subscribe as we navigate through these crazy times.